you're in the right place. This is the Eatfluencer Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Maggie Landes. Together, we are going to unpack everything about eating and discover the what, when, and how that will let you lead your best life. This is not your doctor's conversation about nutrition. Today is when you can start to love eating again. Let food be food and you be you. Get ready to get eatfluenced. Hi, y'all. Welcome back to the Eatfluencer Podcast. I'm your host, Maggie. I'm so glad you're here today. This is episode 20, Get Your Diet Mindset Unstuck. And I've got a guest today, Shawn Mynar. So please hang in there because you are going to hear this wonderful interview that I had with Shawn. Really, interview is a strong word. It's more of a conversation. And this is a real special podcast. I only sporadically do interview shows, as you know, and I usually try to space them out. But we recorded this last week and I could not wait to release it because it is that good. So if you're new and you're wondering who I am or what I almost said Unstuck because that's Shawn's podcast. The Eatfluencer Podcast is all about. I'm a physician and public health nutritionist, and now I work as a anti-diet women's health coach in a business that I own. I have a signature coaching program called Get Eatfluenced, and I guide women fed up with chronic dieting to adopt a mindset free from the oppression of diet culture so they can stop playing small and achieve health and life without limits. Sounds awesome, right? Okay, well, this episode today, I have to disclose, Shawn is my personal business coach. Yes, coaches have coaches. And she has transformed my business and my entrepreneurial journey. But let me tell you what, it's not because of technical things that she's taught me. Although she has taught me technical things, that is not what gives her value to me. She is a mindset expert. Everything she teaches is with this idea that when we change our mind and really can manage our thoughts, we can create the life we want. Her sort of tag is becoming unstuck, and the program I went through is called Unstuck Entrepreneur. She has other unstuck programs for all sorts of different places where you may be stuck in your life. But you know, this seemed so relevant here because this is the people I work with. They are stuck. They are stuck in diet culture. They are stuck in this yo-yo restriction binge cycle. They are stuck in their lives because they think they have to wait to be smaller, to be greater. Really, if I would have come up with the word unstuck before Shawn, I would have taken it from her because I could have called this the Unstuck Eater Podcast or the Unstuck Dieter Podcast. But anyway, I'm making a joke, but really it's the truth. And so, you know, I wanted to have a conversation with Shawn for you all because, like me, she freely admits that her business coaching delivers results because of the mindset work. That's really the foundation of everything. And I do the exact same thing in my programs. You know, I tell people all the time, my health coaching and nutrition coaching is 98% mindset work and 2% nutrition science. So if they come to me and they're inquiring about meal planning and they want tracking systems and an app and all this stuff, I tell them just right up front, I'm not going to be the right person for you. And I recommend you find a different coach or nutritionist because I believe the way that Shawn believes that the mind controls our outcome. It controls our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and all the information that you want to get, you know, all that you don't hire me as a coach or Shawn as a coach because you need like data, like you need facts. You can find that on YouTube for free or Google it on the internet. But the reason you need to work with somebody if you want to improve your relationship with food or you want to improve your entrepreneurial ventures is you need the mindset so that all the other information has a soft place to land, that you can actually put it into action when you have your mindset right. So the other thing about Shawn is she's got a background in the nutrition and wellness space, and so I really wanted to have this conversation with her for me and for you because her mindset expertise is so meaningful and so relevant, and it's applicable to everything that I teach. So here's her quick bio so you can get a sense of what her background is and what she does. Shawn Mynar is a nutritionist, mindset coach, podcaster, online educator, and entrepreneur with a passion for empowering women to live the life of their dreams. She uses a holistic, intuitive approach to wellness and the energetic power of her thoughts, emotions, and actions. Shawn was able to go from rock bottom low into her dream life full of health, love, success, and freedom. She is a Midwestern girl turned mountain loving foodie, and Shawn has now built a health conscious platform that encourages women to explore all aspects of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually through her top rated mindset podcast, Unstuck, which I love, by the way, as a side note, and inspiring online coaching programs. So, we're going to get to the interview in just one moment. I want to give my listeners a quick reminder about my programs that are going on right now. If you're listening to this episode when it is released, it'll be February 17th. And I want you to know you can sign up right now. I have a emotional eating lab, a workshop that I'm conducting live on the 22nd next week. And all you have to do is sign up on my website in advance to have access to that, participate, or get the replay if you're not able to attend live. And it is no cost, no obligation. But if you have any issues with emotional eating, it's going to be a great hour workshop to get you started on that. I also am about to start a March 1st group coaching cohort, and that enrollment will be starting next week. So if you want to be notified when that happens, please jump on my website, get on the wait list, and you'll be the first to know when that enrollment opens and you can get in to one of the spots. So let's go ahead and listen to this interview. I hope you enjoy this as much as I had talking to Shawn. I will let you know there is one very brief technical glitch where there's a little cut in the audio. It lasts less than 5 seconds. Don't turn off your player and freak out. Just keep listening and it'll go right back to the track. So, all right, I'm going to let you hear Shawn's conversation now. All right, and welcome, Shawn, to the Eatfluencer podcast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Maggie, I am so thrilled to be here. I'm so glad you asked me to come on the show. This is like one of my absolute favorite topics. And I believe that your listenership is the kind of person I love talking to also. So it's going to be a great time.
Well, I, realized in working with you how much mindset is everything. You're in your business, coaching relationship with me. Really, my business has grown because of my mindset, not because of any particular skill set. And really, it's the same thing with eating and nutrition. And so I thought, oh, this is a perfect conversation. And you have so much wisdom. I'm so thrilled you came. So I ask you a couple of questions, why don't you just introduce yourself? And maybe you've done a lot of things, but specifically sort of, I know you have a history in the wellness business and a very big interest in nutrition, and maybe how mindset sort of played into some of your own transformation over time.
Yeah, so I have quite a lengthy story, which I will not get into fully today, but I think that there are a lot of components to my journey that your listeners will connect with. So I do want to make sure I share the important parts, and then we'll go into how I got it to where I am today. But for me, we'll start at the very beginning, which is like, gosh, probably middle school when I started my first diet, because that's what my
What you
friends
do,
were
right?
doing.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Like my friends were doing it. We were counting calories. We were trying to eat as little as possible. And everything we did eat was candy, which was really weird, but it was like the low fat candy. So it
Right.
was fine because those
Fat
were the
free.
fat free days. Yeah. And, my mom was on a diet for like all of my life. So it was something that was modeled to me from a very young age. And so that's what I did. And I continued to do that. I went through every single possible diet you can think of up until the last probably 3 years. So if we're talking from middle school until 3 years ago, that was like over 20 years of constant dieting. In high school, no, I would say in college, actually, I did Weight Watchers. Like my friend's mom started doing Weight Watchers. And so then we took her book and her points and all that stuff and did it for ourselves just because like it was very strange. So to say I had a weird relationship with food and body image and dieting and macros and calories and all that stuff is a complete understatement. And that's how I lived most of my adult life. So then we'll fast forward to that time 3 years ago when I finally got rid of all of that business, all of those behaviors, all of those beliefs. And what kicked it off was getting really sick, actually. Um, Previous to that, I had been diagnosed with autoimmune disease, had figured out how to get that under control. But then I started having these mysterious symptoms that made no sense. Nobody could figure out, no doctors understood what was going on. And I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And long story short, come to find out it was because of toxic mold exposure. And so this was a very like mysterious, uncommon, undiagnosable in the traditional medical world
Right.
thing going on with my body. And in that process, I found a doctor who could help me, which was great. So I started feeling a little better. I also was able to figure out some tweaks that I could make with my lifestyle that was helping quite a bit. But the main thing that helped was that I started working on my mindset because in the process of being super sick, gaining over 40 pounds of weight in a matter of months, I ended up, because I still had those body image issues, I ended up getting to a really deep, dark place emotionally and mentally,
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't done any of this work before. I was still, using food to try to control my body and all that great stuff. And it got to the point where I was just in such a low point for myself mentally and emotionally and physically, of course, because I was still not feeling myself, that I had no other choice. It was literally like, don't live my life at all. Hate every aspect of everything that's going on,
Right.
or do something about it. And I had almost like this light bulb moment that was like, what I need to do is inside me already. Like, I need to work on me, like the internal me, not the physicalness of me. I had this
Right.
like weird download, and I had never been a very like spiritual person or really into mindset work or anything like that before. But then all of a sudden I was really turned on to it because of this low point in my life. And again, long story, we'll try to make it as short as
Well,
possible.
is it? I mean,
Began work.
I'm sorry. You get to the
No,
point
go
though
ahead.
where there's nothing left, right? You've tried everything else. You've tried
Exactly.
every single plan, every program, everything, and I mean,
Yes.
you probably sort of felt like this is my last, thing to try.
Exactly, it really was because, again, still having that body image, diet mindset, having 40 pounds come onto your body no matter what you eat, no matter what you don't eat, no matter what you do, no matter what supplements you take, no matter what tests you run, all that stuff, because at this time, I was the nutritionist. I was helping other people with all of their, health issues in a nutrition sense, and I couldn't use my own advice on my that's when it's like I was a last resort. It was like, well, I have to do this or just like hate life, basically. And so I turned to that and it worked and it started really working on my physical health and my physical body. And I felt like pretty immediate differences, which was amazing. And then I started applying it to all other areas of my life. I'm like, okay, well, if it worked in this regard, maybe I could try it for my financial situation that I was in. And I started actually making money and getting out of debt and all that stuff. And my business started taking off. And then I used the tools I had figured out to find a relationship and find a partner after being single for over 6 years. And, just like all these things started coming together. And it was because of this mindset work that I was doing. And so that really is where I'm at now, which is teaching other people how to use this mindset work too in all areas of their lives. I mean, for me, I really, really enjoy working with entrepreneurs because it's something I had to go through myself to put myself
Mhm.
out there and make the business that I wanted actually happen. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that regard, but it really works for anything and everything. And that's why I'm here today to talk about specifically the diet industry and the body image issues and those kinds of things.
Right. Because this is like, I know your whole platform is being unstuck, and
Yes.
the diet industry is like the absolute epitome of being stuck. And I would love to say that your story is an outlier, but I don't think it is. I think a lot of women have spent decades. I mean, I know this because I did it myself, and everybody I know did it themselves, and all the clients that come to me did it themselves. It was like normative to diet all the time. There's like no other, there just wasn't even another way of thinking. And so when you're sort of stuck, I mean, truly stuck in that mindset, you don't even realize that it's optional, I guess is a good
Mhm.
way to say it. So, and that's why it's so fascinating that you can change really anything. I mean, you can change
Mhm.
your attitude about what you're doing, and it changes, like you said, your personal relationships, your business, your finances, the whole thing. So, one thing I'm very fascinated by is this concept of limiting beliefs, because I know
Yes.
this is sort of a trendy term, I guess. I didn't even know what that meant till probably a couple of years ago, but in terms of um body image and that sort of thing, what does limiting belief sort of mean to you, or how for my listeners, like what are the couple of techniques to sort of employ to start addressing what these limiting beliefs are and how we start moving? That's to me, one of the first steps is
Yeah.
realizing where you're stuck, right?
Yes, absolutely. And especially when it comes to body image and your food intake and your dieting behaviors, you have to understand why you do what you do. And the reason why you do what you do is most likely because of your limiting beliefs. And yes, a little trendy, but for good reason, because it is kind of the basis for everything. If you want to think about this, I think this is a really good way to kind of conceptualize it. You may even want to the listeners out there, grab a piece of paper and write this down as I'm saying it, because you'll start to be able to see kind of the trend, which is that everything starts with a belief. So beliefs then turn into actions. So we can, or sorry, turn into thoughts. So we can kind of create an arrow from belief to thoughts. And then your thought usually carries with it an emotion. So then our thought turns into an emotion. And then that emotion turns into an action. And then from that action, we get a result. And I know that you've talked about this. Like this is how it works every single time. So when you act in a certain way, what you can do is go back to the very beginning and kind of even work your way back to that if you can't quite get there, to that belief. We want to, at the end, get to a belief that says, oh, well, it's because I believe this. So you can take it backwards and go, okay, well, what kind of emotion just fueled that behavior? And then what thought came with that behavior? And
Right.
then where did that actual thought come from?
Right.
Like, what's the like, that like deep seated thing to where you think that?
Right. And once you have the thought, like I always kind of think the emotional response is almost like a reflex. So you
Yes.
can't really change the emotion without changing the thought, because the emotional response is like a follow on sort of
Yes. Yes,
response.
absolutely. So, and if we kind of think a little deeper about those thoughts, a lot of people aren't tapped into their thoughts at all. And when you just start getting even the slightest bit more curious about what you think and why you think it, especially when it comes to like what you put on your plate, or what you say to yourself when you look in the mirror, or what you think when someone tells you this is the next diet trend to get on, this is what you need to do to lose weight, or XYZ, all these like terrible things that we are being fed by media. When you start getting a little bit more curious about what you say to yourself in your head, and this is what I call the ego voice, what that constant chatter is saying to you, Like that is the best way to really figure out what your beliefs are, because your ego voice, that little mental chatter, that little buzz that's always going on in your head. And a lot of times it's super negative, it's super limiting. It's really trying to keep you in your safety zone, in your bubble to where nothing bad can happen. I mean, it's not a bad thing, that ego voice. It's really trying to keep you safe and protect you, but it's trying to keep you safe and protect you according to your limiting beliefs. And
It doesn't know anything else except for like the rule book that it's read.
yes, exactly. And its only job is to keep those rules in place, because that's what it thinks is true. That's what you've been taught. That's what it's programmed into your brain now, and that is what will be enforced. So, really taking some time to step back and think about what goes on in your head. For me, and again, I was a nutritionist. I thought that I was away from dieting, but yet I was still using paleo to be on a diet. I was using keto to be on a diet. I was using gluten-free to be on a diet. All of these things that I was taught as a nutritionist are things that I needed to do for my specific autoimmune diseases and all that stuff. But I was still using it to go with, along with my programming of being on a diet, of like, well, I have to eat this certain amount of calories. I can't eat after 8 p.m. Like all these
Yeah.
weird random rules.
Rules.
Yeah,
Rules. Yeah.
rules. Exactly. And these rules are very prominent. Obviously, I think we all know in the dieting world, but I don't think we understand how much we actually take in of that and program it into our mind and can't let it go. Like it doesn't just let go when we're like, no, I don't feel like it. Like you have to really do the work to see it in action and then to take steps to reprogram that to what you really truly want or think or know is the truth. And the last thing I want to say about limiting beliefs is, as I mentioned in my story, my model of dieting and behavior around food was because of my mom and how she was on a diet, and then seeing my friends be on a diet. And so it's also really important that when you think about your limiting beliefs and why you act and think the way you act and think around food, that you look back to your like childhood, like you're way,
Uh-huh.
way, way past, because your subconscious mind, which is where we store our limiting beliefs, it's like our big giant storage bank in our mind, that is formed before the age of 7. So
Uh-huh.
that all gets like the vast majority of your subconscious mind gets formed and created before the age of 7. So that is when you are super susceptible to take in all of this stuff, whether you even know that it's happening or truly actually believe it or truly actually think that it's true. It's going into that subconscious programming. And so now it's still being shown 20, 30, 40, 50 years later in how you behave. So
Right, because it's sort of imprinted in your identity, really.
yes.
I mean, when you're told and sort of even and I tell people all the time because I'm a pediatrician, so people are very always want to know how to handle food around their kids and that sort of stuff. And I
Mhm.
said, listen, it goes way more deep than just you not putting your child on a diet, which of course is a terrible idea, but you every time that they want to take a picture and you go stand in the back because you don't want to be seen in the camera or something, your child is has meaning to them, even if they don't verbalize it, even if you don't explicitly say what you're thinking. They see that representation of, body, poor body image and all sorts of stuff over and over and over and over. And like you said, it's sort of like it is programming. This is like real neurobiology. This is not just
Yes.
like your opinion. This is like how the brain works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is exactly how the brain works. There's no way around it. It just is what it is. And so that's why we have to be mindful, yes, of our children, but then also get really, really curious about what's going on in our own mind and what we can do to change that.
right. And really, like you said, the first step is to just have an awareness of what is it you're thinking and approach it with curiosity and not judgment. And then
Exactly. Yes.
because that's the problem is then you realize what you're thinking and then you feel guilty that you're thinking that is what a lot of people run into.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then
And that doesn't do any good. It doesn't change anything. It's not
stop.
going to help. It's going to make you feel even worse about your situation. And then some other sort of program will come in to where then you emotionally act or eat or whatever it may be. And we don't need that, that you can detach from it and just see it as, oh, this is my programming. This is my thoughts. These are my behaviors. These are my beliefs. And then just notice it, just get curious about it. And the really wonderful part is that you're not stuck with it. Like, especially now that you know, once you know, then you can work to change that, to reprogram it. Your subconscious mind is always on, it's always working, and it's always morphing, and it will continue to do that your entire life. So if you want to have a different belief system or have a different identity, that is available to you. So that's what's really
Right.
cool.
Well, and I love how in the business coaching that you've done for me, the manifesting and putting yourself in a position where you feel like something has already happened or you already have a feeling, it really actually makes it far more likely to happen. And I'll be honest, I thought that was a little woo woo
A little
sort
too
of
woo
like
for you.
a little too woo woo for me, but it actually truly works. And I think you can do the same thing when they're kind of like always waiting for something like, oh, I'll be confident when I lose
Mhm.
weight. I'll apply for that job promotion when I can wear this certain kind of clothes or when, whatever. And I'll find a relationship when I start working out or whatever. And
Mhm.
the thing is that if you start acting like that person, the future person, then you're far more likely to get there than this perpetual like waiting, right?
Absolutely, 100%. It's about being that version of you in order to do and have what that version of you does and has. Like, you can't be the other way around. And again, yes, I like to go more for the woo-woo sense of it because I do believe in energy and vibration and like attracts like and all that good stuff, which we won't get into today. But
That's a whole
also,
other podcast where
whole
we
other
we
podcast.
clink our crystals together and
Exactly. But I will talk about it from a very practical, again, going into the mind and how the mind works. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between real and imagined. So anytime you imagine yourself, visualize yourself and step into that future version of yourself as much as you can in the present moment, your mind thinks that's actually what's going on. It doesn't know that you're just imagining it. It sees that as your reality. So that is a very powerful way to start that reprogramming process and take away these like rules and crazy behaviors and instead insert in to your subconscious programming that version of you that has the job, has the relationship, does all these things regardless, and is confident right now and feels comfortable in their body right now and feels free around food and doesn't have any rules when it comes to dieting or calories or macros or all that blah, blah, blah stuff. Like, you can have that now and you can step into that version of yourself now. And when you do, you will notice, like, actually really notice that those kind of stories start to lessen. They're not as strong. And as you continue to do it, they get weaker and weaker and weaker until you are that version of you. Like, that's
right.
just your reality.
Right. And that's interesting. So and I know you like affirmations as a
Yes.
technique. So that would be explain what that is to people who may not be aware of sort of how that's part of this reprogramming process.
Yeah. So if you can get to the point where you think you might know what some of your limiting beliefs are, basically, if you create the opposite as a statement, so it could be something like, I'm not worthy of a healthy body. Let's just say, for example, which is actually a pretty common limiting belief,
Right.
which seems
Yeah, I was going to
crazy,
say,
but
for
it's
example.
for example, but it's like, yeah, extremely true. For a lot of people think that I'm not worthy of having a healthy body. So then simply changing that to I am worthy of having a healthy body now So that is your affirmation. It's just a statement that proves basically that limiting belief wrong. And this is a way to reprogram the subconscious mind. Now, the hard part about it is that that conscious mind, which is that ego chatter that's kind of always going on, it has a little bit of a blocker with it, has a little bit of a filter. So at first, hearing or thinking, I am worthy of a healthy body is like, nope, that's not what we believe. That's not correct. Throw
That's
it
not
out.
in the rule book. Yeah.
Yes, that's not in the rule book. Throw it out. Now, if we can continue to do this over a period of time and with repetition, it will weaken that filter and it will start to come through as truth, especially, this is the kicker, if you attach an emotion to it, a positive emotion to it. So just saying, I'm worthy of a healthy body. I'm like, well, okay, that's not really that believable. But if you're really thinking and saying, I am worthy of a healthy body, and you can get to the point where you do feel worthy, or at least you feel the possibility, you feel excitement, you feel like maybe this is true. If
Yeah.
you
And
really
that's the
tap into
curiosity
that.
part too, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Any positive emotion where you're like, no, I don't believe this, where you go from, no, I don't believe this to like, this is possible, will start to infiltrate into your subconscious programming. The other little amazing piece of this is that if you can do it right when you wake up or right before falling asleep. So I really like to do my affirmations as I'm like laying my head down. I don't fall asleep right away. It takes me like 10 minutes. I do my affirmations then because your conscious mind tones down around bedtime. Your subconscious mind is always going. That's why we have dreams. But your conscious mind takes a back seat around the bedtime hours. So then you have a better chance of really putting that affirmation, putting that true statement into your new programming. So
That
yeah,
is so cool. That is
it's so cool. And this again, I
And
think
writing it, I
affirmation.
always tell people to write
Yes.
it because there's a lot of power like in putting it out of your brain it physically with the act of a pen on paper. And whether that's in a journal or whether you just literally write it on a sheet of paper and throw the
Mhm.
paper out or put
Yeah.
post-it notes on your desk or your car or whatever, right?
Yep, it's just that process. And yeah, it's really not. I think affirmations get this kind of rap for being woo woo or fluffy or, self-care type stuff, but no, this is actually how your brain works. This is science and it's true. Like it really does help. It really does happen and it really can you can make those shifts, but it does take some work,
Right.
and like I always say, in my podcast and the work that I do, you can't just listen to the podcast. You can't just read the books. You can't just meditate every once in a while. You have to actually do it. And when you do it, change does happen.
Right. Well, because we know it works because to be honest, everybody recognizes that we're doing it in reverse right now, that we're telling
Yeah.
ourselves, I have a body that'll never be look good in pictures. I won't ever be able to be healthy. I'll never be able to run fast. Like we're actually doing the negative affirmations and it's sticking. So
And
we
it's
should,
working. Yeah.
yeah, and it's working and it's miserable. So we should sort of believe that just changing the perspective that it would work just the same way. It's just,
And it does. Yeah,
yeah,
it does. And just think about how much your life would change and your emotion would change and just how much happier and freer you would feel in the present moment if you believed something different. Like you don't have to always think I'll never look good in pictures. I'll never I always need to be on a diet. I can't trust myself around food. Like all these stories, like they're literally just stories and you have
yeah.
complete control over changing that.
Right. And then the advantage of doing that, then you kind of get this positive confirmation bias. So once you start to adopt a healthier, more positive, optimistic attitude, things seem more positive and optimistic around you because you sort of self-select for that instead
Oh,
of the
yes.
reverse.
Yes. Again, you're going back to the subconscious mind and this not being woo, being like reality is that you naturally filter in and out things that go along with, that are in alignment with what you believe. So if you believe that you never look good in pictures, then every single picture you see of yourself, you're not going to like ever.
Right.
Or if you believe that you can never be trusted around food and you always need to be on a diet, then the second you try to get off a diet, you are going to like go crazy and feel out of control. And you're going to have to revert to, I can't trust myself around food. You're
Right.
always going to see that. But if you can start the process with, I do trust myself around food. I don't need to be on a diet. I know I can eat intuitively. And that is your new programming. You're going to have no problem.
Right. Well, I just think this is so fascinating because it just works. And but see, people who don't have these sort of techniques and this perspective, it seems so far off, because
Mm-hmm.
I have clients call me and they're kind of like, I tell them, I say, listen, my 8-week program, like we don't even really honestly talk about food until the 7th week.
Mm-hmm.
If this is like 99% mindset, and then we'll eventually, I mean, like, because frankly, you don't need to pay me to know what calcium or protein or vitamin D is. Like, you can go Google that on the internet. Like, that's just data, frankly. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way about business coaching. We all get into your program and then we start asking like, well, how do I make an Instagram story? How do I do this? How do I do my email? And you're like, okay, hold on a second, ladies. We've got to, and
Yeah.
now having gone through that, I realize that all that sort of information doesn't land anywhere if you're not in the right mindset to receive it. I mean, you could tell us whatever information, but if we are still trying to do it like a task list and not
Mm-hmm.
motivated from this mindset, it's just not that fruitful. I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but it's just so
It's
much
going to be a heck
work.
of a lot harder. Yeah. You're going to have to effort your way instead of being able to be inspired and use your intuition and just get in the flow with anything, not just with business, with anything. You will have to effort your way and it will feel weird. It will feel scary. It will feel awful. And there's a way greater chance of failure or, it just not sticking. So,
And
yeah.
burnout, because you're just like
Mm-hmm.
grinding your gears. I mean,
Exactly.
it's exhausting to have to work so hard against yourself is really what it
Yes.
comes down to.
Yeah, that's why I call it getting out of your own way. That's what I teach people how to do is get out of their own way because it's you that is currently keeping yourself from whatever it is you want in your life. Like any desire that you have, it's you getting in your own way, which
Right.
means you
That
can get
is
out of it too.
right. We have all the power. So
Yes.
that is awesome. Shawn, this conversation is fantastic. And I really appreciate your perspective, both from a, mindset and also your sort of nutrition background. But like you said, this is universal.
Mm-hmm.
This is a way to think to get to whatever your goal looks like, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So before we wrap up here, do you have any last thoughts or comments or anything you'd like to share regarding this sort of eating mindset or any of this woo-woo stuff that you're so good at?
I think really what I would just say, especially to people, which I would assume is most of the audience that are having a hard time getting out of the diet mindset and have been there for so long, that it's time and it's the best switch you can make in your entire life. If you I know I've been there. I was so obsessed with food unknowingly. Like it just was my life for so long. It took up so much energy, it took up so much time, and it felt like I had no control or like I could never get away from it. And to be able to be on the other side now where I don't think twice about diets or food or calories or macros or anything like that. I just enjoy my food fully and I feel so free
Yes, and
that
by the way, you are a foodie, and so if you
I
don't
am.
follow Shawn's pictures of her food on Instagram, you need to do that because you'll be very envious of the things that she comes up with and how great they look.
I love cooking. I don't like following recipes or anything. I just intuitively cook too, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
But yeah, I love food, but I also love it way more now that I don't have to worry about it. And so if you're in that space, please do the work. Please do the work that Maggie's teaching you. Please do the work on your mindset, on your emotions. Get in touch with all of this and just know that you have the power. You don't have to listen to the crazy diet industry. Just take back your power. Just
And
take
you
it
don't have to
back.
listen to your ego brain
Yes. Well,
that's was
like,
programmed in 1982,
yeah,
and is
yeah,
repeating the same
exactly.
stuff.
Listen to it and be like, oh, that little ego voice of mine is totally full of crap. I'm going to choose something else. Like
Right.
it's really that simple.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. we could talk about this for, I think we
So
could have a
long.
4-hour long podcast marathon.
As you can
Um,
tell, I'm just a little bit fascinated by it and passionate about it. I think it's really cool stuff.
I think it is so amazing how the brain works. We have all the power inside of us. We don't actually need any external motivators
Yeah.
or tools. Really, we really have everything. It's just accessing it.
Hmm.
And you're absolutely right. It's time to do it and get out of our way, get out of our own way.
Yes, please.
So tell my listeners where they can find you if they want to hear more from you or see your work or work with you potentially. Where can they find Shawn Mynar?
Yeah. So I guess the best place to go would be my podcast. It's called Unstuck, and it is this work every single week. It's this kind of work. I even have specific podcasts that are for the diet conscious body image issues. I have specific episodes just for that. But it applies to all areas of your life. So I would just start there and work your way through some of those episodes. Again, Unstuck, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then I'm Shawn Mynar on Instagram. That's MYNAR. And you can find my website, shawnmynar.com. That's everything I do, all my courses, all my coaching, all my programs, everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate you taking your time out to educate us today and have this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Maggie.
Wasn't that awesome? I was not kidding. Shawn is the real deal. Mindset work expert. If you are not following her already, you need to do that immediately. Listen to her podcast, the Unstuck podcast. Go over to her website and consider, working with her in one of her programs. Follow her on social media at Shawn Mynar, MYNAR. Whether you're a biz owner or not, it does not even matter. She has got mindset work that will really improve the quality of your life top to bottom. So thank you again, Shawn, for having this conversation and being able to share your expertise with my audience. I want to just remind you that I do have an emotional eating lab workshop next week on the 22nd of February. If you're listening to this in real time, you can go right now to my website, maggielandesmd.com, sign up for that free event. If you can't come live on the 22nd, you will get the replay and all the bonuses as long as you sign up in advance. All right? And I look forward to continuing these conversations with you, helping you get out of diet culture, think differently about food and body. Keep your ears out. I have new podcasts every Wednesday. And thank you for joining me today. Until next time. Thank you so much for being here today. If you love what you've learned, follow me on social media at Maggie Landes MD, and you'll never miss a thing. You can also check out my website at maggielandesmd.com and sign up to be part of our community of eaters. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll talk again soon.